It's a beautiful day out.
It's very beautiful out. But like, oh my gosh, yeah, my allergies.
Oh, do you have allergies?
Yeah. Ugh. The tree pollen everywhere. I have to wash my car again. I just washed it. It's all covered in yellow stuff.
In that yellow.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like parked next in between to two really nice clean cars, and there's my car, like all covered in yellow.
Is that a linden tree?
Where we have all these trees in front of our house.
Okay.
So there's nowhere really to park but under the trees.
Oh, yeah.
So my car is covered in tree sap, covered in tree pollen.
Right. And
yeah.
little spirals, little wigglies, whatever those. Okay. Welcome to In the Act, a radio program on process and the creative life. Creativity does not just start and stop with artists. We all make aesthetic and guiding decisions. Our aim is to talk through some of these processes and investigate how we choose to express ourselves and live creatively. So we're connecting with people about their lives. That's pretty much it. And that's the subject of our show. I'm Erica Hunsinger, broadcasting from Mead Public Library in Wisconsin in Sheboygan. On Mead Community Radio, this is In the Act. And our guest for today is Christina Wilke Burbach.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad that you asked me.
So I asked you because when I was developing the show, thinking about creativity and sort of like demystifying the idea of creativity for people, and because I think sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not an artist. I don't do that. This isn't me. But everybody makes these everybody makes aesthetic choices every day. Everybody makes different decisions for themselves that are creative. And like thinking about this, you're one of the first persons that I thought of to interview. I'm like, oh, Christina.
That is, first of all, I'm very, very honored. Because I think in my creative journey, you've played a large role in it, which I'm sure we can talk about a little bit today.
Oh.
But I never just recently started thinking about myself as a creative person.
Wow. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I thought about myself more as like an academic, an intellectual. My creativity probably revolved around like writing and thinking of creative like business ideas, but I never thought with like the arts and music as myself as a creative person until recently. So it's been like a spiritual awakening, I guess, in a way.
That's so beautiful.
Within the past couple of years.
Can you tell us a little bit about like your, because I know the depth of of what and how you move through this life, and because we have studios in the same building, and but could you talk a little bit just about what you do, what you're drawn to, what your business life, I guess. Let's do maybe that.
So I am thirsty for knowledge. I love learning. I can't get enough. I have a number of college degrees. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a bachelor's in anthropology, a master's degree in clinical psychology. I have a PhD in health psychology. And then I have postdoc training in transpersonal psychology. I am a master gardener. I'm a certified aromatherapist. I'm an herbalist. I'm an ordained minister. I mean, I could list on and on. So I primarily have identified myself, like I said, as like a nerdy type person.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Just very thirsty for knowledge.
Yeah, which is why I'm like, how fascinating. Like, I totally see all of that as like these, like an archaeologist of learning and knowing, but that act, the like how you're creating things and how you've moved through those things is totally a creative path.
I think that haven't made even like some of these as conscious decisions to go. I think for one way or another, I've been maybe unconsciously in some way guided into certain areas. Like something would happen in my life. And like, I had some very profound stuff happen in my life when my grandfather passed away that made me pursue transpersonal psychology. And that's not clinical psychology. That is spiritual psychology, for lack of a better word. So we focus on things above and beyond the ego, things where some people might consider a little taboo. So like I focus a lot with my clientele on what's your purpose, what's your reason for being here, what's your passion, what makes you feel alive. And then that kind of for me was a doorway into art.
Wow.
So learning more about art as a way to tap into the depth of your psyche and help bring up stuff to the surface that talk therapy can't help you express.
Right. And I love that that that's the process, is like you're inspired, like something occurs in your life, you're inspired by it, and then you find a vehicle to help learn more about it, and then...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I originally was going to school for literature. I want to be a journalist.
Oh.
And then I was forced, like everyone else, to take your social study courses in college. And I took a psychology class and I fell in love.
Wow.
And I was going through some really troubled times in my life at that time. So the psychology helped me understand myself. So I think my biggest inspiration in life has always been situations that have happened to me and then trying to find deeper meaning into why they're happening, which I think is a guiding force in my life. Like, why is this happening to me? Or, like, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
How can this help give me, like, what kind of positive characteristics and strength has this bestowed upon me? So,
wow.
Very inspired by events that have happened in my life.
Yeah. So that led you to psychology. And then did you practice psychology then, like as a psychologist for a while?
I have worked in every single job possible under the realm of psychology. Yeah. First of all, I had to go on and get a master's degree because you really can't do much with a psychology degree if you just have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
But I've worked in a group home for individuals with chronic and persistent mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. I've worked for the Department of Corrections. I've done family in-home counseling. I worked in a program with teen mothers. I have done family counseling, group counseling, individual counseling, couples counseling, everything under the scope of psychology as a counselor.
Yeah.
And then some things happened in my life, and I went back to school to get my PhD.
Wow.
And that, once again, was inspired by things in my life that were happening around me. I had lived in rural Wisconsin and had a really hard time finding a job. I was overqualified for every single job. Mm-hmm. And I decided just to go back to school again. Like, when in doubt for me, go back to school and learn something else or take another class.
Sure.
And then I had my PhD. And then I decided to start my own business. But I had started my own business in the process of getting my PhD.
In the process of getting your PhD, you decided to open your own business?
Yeah. That was my sister's idea. I blame her for that. But it was the best thing ever. Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, I can't believe this is my life. I never, ever would have thought that this would be my life, but I love it.
I mean, yeah. All those little decisions are almost like the creative flow.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, it's like just a parallel of that, of this doesn't quite feel right. I mean, if you like parallel it to a painting or something, like, oh, I'm not sure about this composition. let me change this or edit this out so that I can put this back in, and I need to find out about this material or new learning. But
don't erase it.
Don't erase it?
Yeah, don't erase it. Just figure out a way to make it all work or remodel it or rework it. And even like that with my painting.
Right.
Yeah. Just try to rework it until it works, until you can make it work.
Right.
You don't want to erase or delete anything that we've ever done because I think that makes you who you are.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So in like a personal way or like an art way or both? I think they're very intertwined.
I do too. Yeah.
So like I work with a lot of people and myself, very inspired like by what I do for a living based on my own personal journey. And I've had experiences in my life like, I've been in recovery from drugs and alcohol and things like that where people want to erase that from their life. And I think that every single thing we've been through makes you who you are. It helps show you your strengths. It helps show you things in which you've triumphed and survived over. So integrating those and making those a part of our identity and who we are instead of erasing those or deleting those things. So I help, with myself, I think that that's been a defining my defining characteristics is the things that I've survived and triumphed over. And then helping guide other people, like what I do for work, and helping people look at trials and tribulations as opportunities for growth. Because I don't think we go through any change in life, no change, unless it's precipitated by some sort of like pain or some sort of darkness that we have to overcome.
Yeah.
So, and that's the same with our artwork. I know some artists, like lots of my friends, and my husband is an artist, and I know some artists want to, delete or burn or throw away break their art when they don't like the way that it turned out. But for me, myself, and I'm still really struggling with considering myself an artist, to try to rework it and make it work. Make it work, because I'm not going to throw it away, because for me, it's a lot about the journey and the process of making the art versus the final product. So if something is not working, I'll just try to figure out a way to make it work.
I love that. I mean, I'm of that same belief, and I think that's one reason why we connect on that. I think it's so important to have that as a person, to not like only look at the positive or only focus on what is going right, but like learning from and gathering up, like these are all the elements of myself, and I am incorporated with anger and happiness and sadness and laughter, and that is like all of us. Yeah.
I try really hard not to see anything as positive or negative. It just is. Things are positive or negative because we make it positive or negative by our perceptions and the way that we look at the world. Something that you might see as negative, I might see as positive. So I think things just are. And I think it's our coping skills and the way that we can work with those emotions that help us like integrate them and make them neutral. But I think nothing is really positive or negative.
Beautiful.
And with our life experiences too.
Yeah.
Nothing like any decision that we've made, no matter how it turned out, good or bad, it just makes us who we are. And we never want to delete that or throw that away. So everything just is. Neither negative nor positive. So yeah, I'm working really hard at that in my life, just seeing it as it is and taking it as it is. I think it's negative, or I think people perceive it as negative when they don't have the toolbox or the skills to help cope with it. And I think people see it as positive. They find some sort of like reward out of it, or like a reward out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just working through that in my head.
I love that. I'm trying to think of the placement of attributing things as neutral.
Yeah. Because I think, once again, coming from the realm of like spirituality, transpersonal psychology, like things just are. And I think other spiritual disciplines look at things more like in the moment, in the here and the now, not negative, not positive, just everything just is. Like be here now, everything just is.
Right. Almost like, is like Buddhism a little bit?
Yeah, kind of.
Like a Zen sort of. I mean, I think that's the closest.
Very philosophical, more non-Western thinking.
Right.
Those more esoteric or like Buddhism, different type of philosophies besides Western ones.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, and what is your doctorate in again?
So my doctorate, my PhD is in health psychology, which is hippie psychology, I always tell people. Sometimes, I know what I do in my head, and the people very close to me know what I do, but when I try to talk to other people about what I do, sometimes I stumble across words. So health psychology is basically the study of mind-body medicine, like how the mind influences health, or, for healing and for sickness. How when we stress out, we can make the body sick. But then conversely, you can use the mind to make the body well. So that's technically what health psychology is. And then health psychology incorporates a lot of spirituality into it, and that's where I was introduced. I mean, I was very interested in these things, like meditation, mindfulness, yoga, before I went to school to get my PhD. But then I really was exposed to a lot of the like mind-body medicine, hypnosis, behavioral nutrition, like eating, the way that you eat, the way that you think about your eating can improve your health. Not necessarily what you eat, but how you eat and the choices that you make, and like being surrounded by people when you eat, and being happy and telling stories, like other countries where it may take 2 hours to eat dinner because they're having fun and conversing, where here we're like, oh, quick, hurry up and eat, 5-10 minutes. I'm guilty of that today. I'm like, oh my gosh, quick, hurry up, eat lunch before I gotta go to the library today. So introduced to things like that. So I always tell people it's like it was like a hippie psychology, where you're looking at not what you're broken, not at the people who, things that you did and people who like blaming your mom for things. It's not focused on like talk therapy. And so then that led the door. So I was present when my grandfather passed away and had some, what I would consider above normal supernatural experiences in which, we felt someone come and take his soul after he died. Like just a lot of unexplainable things. So that definitely, I took a spiritual psychology class down as I was finishing my PhD, and that introduced me to transpersonal psychology, and my life completely changed that day with that class. And that, I think, a lot influenced me who I am, to like where I am today with my business and my philosophy for living. Yeah, unexplainable things.
Perfect.
So I believe in synchronicity, right? Like psychic coincidence, that things don't just happen. Everything happens for a reason. Everything is interconnected. Everything, that whole as above, so below concept, where we are just a reflection of the universe, and that nothing happens by coincidence. Everything, I think, is some sort of like divinely, cosmically guided. Wow. So that's been a big influence in me in my, if you want to call it, creative endeavors and pursuit.
Absolutely. This is In the Act. I'm Erica Hunsinger, and we are back with Christina Wilke Burbach. And we were just talking about being divinely connected to the universe, and that is a majestic. I mean, you were going really fast, and I was trying to follow you, but I felt like I was on a spaceship, and I was like, "Hold on, wait for me." Can we? So your business sort of grew out of all of these other pieces.
Absolutely.
And like all connect back into those philosophies and thoughts and experiences, like with your grandfather and can you talk about what things what you bring into the business and like
Sure.
a bit more?
So my business is called Mind, Soul, and Self. And so I've been in business for over 12 years. I originally started really tapping into my business with the whole health psychology, mind, body, and focus a lot on stress. And then that morphed. Once again, I think I've just been guided by like my clients and by things I've read and, things happening in society. I think that's guided and directed my business. So I have dramatically gone through many evolutions of my business within the past 12 years. And where I am today is a little different than where I was when I first started. So I started with like stress management and helping people cope with their stress with like energy medicine and aromatherapy and meditation. And then like I teach a lot of classes, and like fast forward 12 years, now I do something very, very niche. I am, most of my clientele are like, I don't know if you ever heard that famous quote by Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell was a really well-known mythologist. And his famous quote is, what is it? The mystic swims with delight. No, the psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims with delight.
Wow.
The psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims with delight, right? So the water is not bad or good. It's just the water, kind of like what we were talking about before. It's not positive. It's not negative. It just is the water. It's the way you perceive the water that makes you, like how you cope with it, how you swim with it. Do you drown or do you swim? So my clientele are all experiencing symptoms where if you look at them through Western eyes, they're pathological, psychological, schizophrenic, bipolar, severely depressed. But if you look at them with spiritual eyes, the more philosophical, cosmic eyes, these people are having spiritual experiences. So I always, a little funny quote that I kind of coined is, there's a fine line between psychic and psycho. And the clientele that I work with are women in particular who are having spiritual awakenings, but through Western eyes have been diagnosed with mental health disorders. So working with women, and once again, if you would ask me like 20 years ago, if I was, doing this for a living, I would have said, yeah, right. So I'm very, very niche. So I have clients from all over, and like that's a really positive thing from COVID is I've moved a lot online. Like 90% of my business is online now, and I have clients all over the United States and Canada. But I still see people at my office here in Sheboygan. So a lot of my clients have had experiences which, in the yoga world, you would call it Kundalini awakening, dark night of the soul, spiritual emergencies in which they see things, hear things, feel things that other people might not see. So if you talk to one person who will look at you through one lens, they'll be put on like medications, put in mental hospitals. But I work on them like nurturing and coping and looking at what they're experiencing as a spiritual awakening.
Wow.
And that we all have these abilities. I don't think it's called the sixth sense for no reason. Like, we all have had these abilities, and for one reason or another, as we've evolved, we've devolved, right? As we got more into technology, we've turned off our connection to nature. So, like, look at our ancestors who looked at the stars in the sky and could see patterns and constellations. Like, oh, look at those stars, it's a bull. Or look at those stars, it is a lion. And we are so disconnected from nature and the cosmos because we are all working and one of my friends would call it concrete sickness. We are walking on sidewalks and staying in our houses and our condos and don't ever go outside and, feel the grass on our feet. So I think we just got very disconnected from nature and the cosmos, where our ancestors were very connected. Absolutely. So I don't think there's like anything woo-woo or crazy in quotation marks for people just being very connected to like animals and nature and
absolutely
and the cosmos. So once again, they're just having these experiences. They're not negative or positive. It's how you look at them and how you cope with them.
Right.
So utilizing like artwork to help people express their feelings and their emotions and what they're going through. Dance and movement and like altered states work, which would involve like hypnosis and drumming and shamanic type of things. And I do a lot of nonverbal work with my clients because I think words are just words. Words are just Band-Aids. Words don't get to the root of the problem. So that's why I think art has been very profound. So my artistic journey has paralleled my professional journey.
Huh.
So a big changing point in my life with that was actually taking your art and asana class.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what was that, like a couple years ago?
Yeah.
First of all, I never heard of anyone doing anything like that, like combining art with yoga. So I ate that up. I thought it was awesome.
That.
And that was just very profound for me to combine those together. And I think that was a catalyst in helping, to further deepen my journey with art. I never painted a painting until I did that with you.
Oh my gosh.
Took that class with you. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have goosebumps right now.
I want to make sure that you know that, like, I'm recording here, how inspiring you have been to me and how large of a role you have played in me in my journey, right?
Oh my
we didn't
gosh.
plan this out.
No, we did not plan this
I didn't
out.
plan
Right.
I didn't know you, and then I moved into my studio and you just happened to be my neighbor. So that's what I'm talking about like being divinely guided, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Just guided by the people that you meet and wanting to learn more about them. And that leads you to A to B to C to D. And these are all choices that I've made based on situations in my life. So I met you and I'm like, oh, she's interesting. I want to get to know her better. And then I found out about you and the things that you do. And then you're offering this class and I took this class. And yeah, I think that we can be really inspired just by going with the flow.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is of the creative nature. That act in of itself, right, is like, oh, this led me to this, and how do I think differently? And adding those new pieces in and incorporating them and thinking them and reflecting, and then what comes back out again. And I am amazed at your the pace in which you're able to do that, I think, is really remarkable. I mean, I feel like I have seeds that I'll plant. I'm like, oh, interesting. And it'll sit and germinate for a long time. It has to live in darkness and before it can talk to me differently. And it might take a year or 2 years. And I just feel like you're probably because you're so invested, engaged, your turnaround and your ability to connect, think, and that whole process seems so, and I'm not saying easy, but has an ease to it, like a fluidity maybe is a better word.
My mind works in hyperdrive. Yeah. It's very, very, and if I would talk to the wrong person, they probably would say that I have and I've been, people have told me in the past, you have ADD or you have ADHD. I don't believe in labels.
Yeah.
I think these are all our characteristics. For many of us, these are characteristics that survival skills that we have developed as a result of situations we grew up in or situations we encountered as an adult. So I don't believe in labels. I hate labels. That's one of the biggest reasons I didn't want to work in Western psychology anymore. Sure. Is you look at a person and you label them, you diagnose them, and then they become that label, whether they really were that label or not. And it's so disempowering. So I don't diagnose people at all, and I really come from the mindset that these traits, these abilities that we have, these characteristics are defining characteristics that help us navigate our world. So some people in the past have said yeah, you have ADHD or you have bipolar disorder. Why?
Right.
I think quickly and I go with the flow, quickly and, bring things together very quickly. And I don't think that's pathological in any way. I think it's pathological or maladaptive if you're not in the right situation.
Oh, interesting. Sure. Right. Yeah.
And that's another thing I do with my clients too, encourage them to think about themselves differently. Because I think a lot of people tell us things about ourselves and then we come to believe them whether they were there or not. And then they define us and they're very, like I said, disempowering. That's a big theme of mine too.
Right.
Empowering people that there's nothing wrong with you. These things that you developed have had, once again, helped you become who you are today.
Right.
And they're not pathological. They may be pathological in a certain situation, but if you channel that energy into a different situation, maybe you're not in the right job, maybe you're not, instead of channeling your anger and yelling at someone, maybe grab a paintbrush and paint or do CrossFit or do exercise. I have a lot of clients that have a lot of pent up energy, anger, rage, and then they channel it to CrossFit exercise or endurance exercise. So that, and then they're very, very successful and they love it. But I think that's a really good example of someone who has something where someone would call it pathological in one certain situation, but if you put them in a more adaptive one, then they thrive.
For sure.
So, so my mind works really fast, and some people would consider it ADD, but I think it's just who I am and how I tick and what makes me successful at what I do.
Absolutely.
So we just got to plug people into and put them in more adaptive situations and look at people differently as nothing wrong with them. It's who you are, and everyone's beautiful and unique and divine with all their characteristics, personality traits, and abilities.
Oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful lens. I love that, and I love that that you also connect that back into nature.
Yes,
and how important. Yeah,
I love nature so much. Plants are my passion. I want to cry about it. I love nature so much. I'm so inspired by nature. I love flowers and trees and plants and animals. I love the sunsets. And I think people don't stop and literally smell the roses. We speed through our lives and we don't take a look at and have gratitude that, oh my God, I woke up today. I'm breathing. I have food on the table. I have a job. Or I have this beautiful world that I live in that, if you really think about it, is so magical and mystical.
Yeah.
I was outside 2 nights ago. I would take my dog out at night before we go to bed to go potty, and just looking at the moon, just the way it was coming in and out of the clouds, I could stare there for hours.
Right.
So all around us, we're this gorgeous beauty all around us.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's my biggest inspiration. So I try to capture it. The other day, I really didn't want to do it. I was crying as I did it. But one of my flowers, they're starting to go where, they're starting to die. My hellebore plant or linden rose. And I cut off all the flowers and I'm okay, I'm going to press you so I can make art out of you. So I am very inspired by art and then try to make art and capture it by pouring it in acrylic. I grow some plants to make beads out of them and then make malas and bracelets. And
oh my gosh.
I'm very inspired by nature. Yeah. Especially flowers.
I love that threads into the work that you do both professionally and personally.
Yeah. I love nature. Very inspired by it in numerous ways. Particularly all the colors in flowers in nature.
Yeah.
That's nature's paint palette. all around us, like very inspired by colors. I love colors so much. If you go and see all the colors, I mean, I'm sure I have nothing compared to what you have, but I really want every single color of paint possible. So even though many of them are never even open, on my studio table, I have like every single color of acrylic paint possible. And I just like looking at it.
That's awesome.
I just love color. I love color. How, you can have two colors very similar to each other, but yet they're slightly different.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And how that vibrates off each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm very inspired by color and by nature
and
patterns.
And in your painting, like you're bringing up painting then, do you paint? Like, I know what you paint, but
yeah, I'm gonna throw it back to you. So you're the first person really, and I don't think you had any idea like how a source of inspiration you were until today. So,
no idea, yeah.
I'm glad. This makes my heart sing that I get to tell you this.
Very
You're the first person that really made me look at art, at abstract art in a different way. Because I think that's one of my biggest barriers. I've always, my whole life, like my best friend's an artist. We've been best friends for over half our lives, and she's an artist and very talented. And my husband is an artist, and lots of my friends are artists. And I'm like, oh gosh, I can't even draw a straight line. I can't even cut my hair straight, So I think that was very intimidating for me, and I just negotiated myself to be an intellectual. Well, I'm going to be very smart, and I'm going to read lots of books, and I'm going to take lots of classes, and I'm going to be the intellectual one, the wise woman. And then like some work that I did with you helped me look at abstract art in a different way as being a very valid source of art and creativity. Not only that, I think abstract art really, and I'm thinking back to my training as a psychologist with like Rorschach tests and look at these patterns and what do these patterns, like what do you see here? Oh my gosh, abstract art gets way deeper into the psyche, into the soul, and pulls out things versus, and no disrespect to people who do beautiful landscape painting, no disrespect to that, but I, look at abstract art as a way to really deep dive into the psyche and pull out stuff from the unconsciousness, the super consciousness, the collective consciousness, and get it on paper. And I think, and I don't know about your process, but mine is like just going, and it's the journey. I volunteer as a docent and as a master gardener at John Michael Kohler Art Center, and was involved in a meeting there a couple years ago. I think one of the exhibitions had something to do with mental health and art, and I was sitting on the committee. Everyone on the committee had some sort of mental health degree, and we were talking about art, and one of the women there said, I believe she's actually an employee of the Art Center, said that it's the process, it's the journey about making art, and that was burnt into my brain. And I think about it all the time. It's the journey, it's the process. It's not so much the final product. So just exploring what comes up as you go with the flow, and, whether you're consciously making a color decision or a pattern decision or not, I think you're guided by your subconsciousness, and that can really bring things out. So looking at your artwork and then taking a couple art classes with you, painting classes, has really made me look at abstract art as the superior form of artwork for psychological and emotional and spiritual healing.
Wow. That's so profound.
So I am and in the past, I have no art training. In fact, when all my friends were taking art classes in college and high school, I'm like, no, I'm going to take, music band class or something that. Or I'm going to take a philosophy or humanities class where everyone else is taking the fun art classes, which, I don't want to regret anything, but I almost wish I could go back in time and take some art classes in high school and college.
Right.
But I kind of forgot where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. So, untrained me, would look at abstract art and be like, oh, a 2-year-old could do that. Now I'm like, no way.
Right.
I think it's harder to do abstract art than to paint, a landscape.
Interesting.
So I have, a whole new profound admiration for abstract art.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear, as a proponent of abstraction.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. And I don't even, but it's not, someone had said that it's not so much what, the viewer gives art its meaning partially, not just the artist, but the viewer, where I'll paint something and then my husband will be like, oh my gosh, look at this. I posted something recently on Facebook that I painted, and a friend's like, oh my gosh, look at that really cool owl in the corner. I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that until you pointed it out. So it's amazing what other people see in your artwork.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I can pull a lot of stuff out, symbols and patterns, and in organizations, it can pull a lot of things out. And I think that's really how like our psyche, our soul communicates and organizes information is in patterns and symbols, not in words. And that, to me, abstract art is completely like the lack of words, the lack of structure, but it's not a bad thing.
Welcome back. This is Erica Hunsinger in the Act with Christina Wilke Burbach. And we were just talking about abstract art and that and how abstraction is new to you, new appreciation, and like has this like direct then lineage of psychology and art, spirituality, connection. And I love your explanation of it. I feel like I don't have the same words that you do within that. And I'm so glad to hear you speak about it. And I don't necessarily think that there's a hierarchy and like, you know, abstraction is better than landscape or realism or whatever, but that that there's different draws from it. And when you're talking then about not just the process and the expression of it, but that it's tied into like recognizable patterns and symbolism and which translates back into like just folds back into your interests and your work and your life and yourself. Like this is just the most creative life, like that you've like you're everything. It's like all of these like tune-ins, and they just feel very much like the world is your palette and you're
I like that.
Creating it. And I
never wanted to live a boring life. Ever.
Yeah. I mean, and I love that you're inspired by nature and gardening and stuff. And I was wondering if we could talk a tiny bit about your gardening.
Oh my gosh, sure. Yes.
I mean, I've seen photos of your gardens, and you have. I have
17. Yeah, I have 17 gardens right now, and
17?
Yeah, and I believe me, when it's time to weed them, I'm not so giggly.
Right, totally.
I'm probably going to plant another garden over the weekend, so like Memorial Day weekend for me, and that's coming up here in a couple days.
Sure,
is always like the official start, the official start to summer for me, because that's always when I plant my seeds outside directly, like sow them in the ground and really get the gardens, like wake them up from the winter. So I'm planning on another garden. I'm actually germinating the seeds right now in the fridge, cold germinating them. I'm going to do a poison garden. I kind of already have a poison garden right now, but I'm going to all like curate it and put it into one location. So like belladonna and monkshood, some of the what is it called? Now I'm like, I see all the seeds in my head like all laid out and germinating. Yeah. So they're poisonous if you like make a preparation and drink them or put them, which we're not doing. But,
right.
But they're very, very beautiful.
Oh yeah. And then you have like the black tulips.
Yeah, so I specialize. So my husband's also a master gardener.
I did not know
we
that.
do a lot of this work together. Yeah, we took master gardener training together, and it was a really cool bonding experience.
Cool.
So
yeah.
He has his own gardening loves. Like he's really into ferns and more the prehistoric plants and
cool.
like leafy greens, and I'm very into like flowers. But I specialize in heirlooms. So everything I grow is an heirloom. So not GMO, not all heirloom. So heirlooms are seeds that have been passed down from generation to generation. So I grow very varieties that you don't see like in the grocery store. Very colorful, very unique. This year I'm going to grow like silver watermelon. And I grow right now in our garden, we have purple kale and purple. I have almost a black lettuce. I have a red lettuce called Solar Flare. So I specialize in growing heirlooms and then black flowers.
Wow.
And black food too. And purple. So I have like 4 different kinds of black tomatoes I grow. I grow blue tomatoes, purple tomatoes, purple carrots, black carrots, purple kale, purple Brussels sprouts. off the top, purple, black radishes. I don't grow anything. Like I said, I never wanted to live a boring life, and that goes down to my garden too.
Yeah.
And then all my flowers, I have several black gardens where, like, I have 2 kinds of black tulips right now. I was talking about, like, my flowers where I was all sad I had to cut them down. Black hellebore, black lilies, black violets, black columbine.
Wow.
Yeah, all black. So I've searched really hard to find some of these, and then I seed save every year.
Oh, wow.
So my goal eventually was, like, kind of playing around with, I think I'd like to do a farmer's market and just, sell, unique varieties that you're not going to find anywhere else. And the thing is, some people might be freaked out. Like right now we have so much lettuce, we're like trying to give it away to all of our friends, and they're all like, yeah, come over and get some, seriously.
Okay.
And my one friend's like, romaine, please. Okay, well, we have a little bit of romaine, but you don't want to try this black or purple lettuce.
Totally.
And some people are a little hesitant at first to try them, but once they do, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. So my husband took some to work, and now his coworker's like, we want more. It was so good. So people might be hesitant to try, like, black tomatoes, blue tomatoes, black carrots, but the taste, it is so delicious. They're really delicious. Very flavorful.
Because they're dark. They have a different flavor profile.
They have a different flavor profile. They have a different, like, the darker they are, the more, like, antioxidants that they have. But I think we've been trained. And there's a fabulous documentary I encourage people to watch all the time. I teach an herbal medicine series,
which is amazing.
And I also teach, like, gardening classes and continuing education gardening classes. And it is mandatory for people to watch Seed, the Untold Story. It's a documentary. It was on PBS a couple years ago. It came out on Earth Day, like 3-4 years ago on PBS, and it tells all about seeds and how 98% of seed variety has been lost within the past 100 years. And the food that our great-great-grandparents ate is not at all the same food that we're eating. You go to the grocery store and you see, like, 1 or 2, 3, 4 varieties when really there's, like, hundreds and hundreds of varieties of things. Wow. So people's taste palates have been dumbed down based on what you can find at the grocery store. So I think that's part of it. Like, the food that we're eating in the grocery store is, selected to look good,
right,
and to travel and not spoil. And then the heirloom food, like, once again, we're talking about things not good or bad. Like, there are imperfections, and imperfections are part of the beauty.
Absolutely.
So I look at food in a different way too, where, okay, there's a little bump on it. Okay, that's not bad. Like, it's just part of the growing process, or it was defending itself against something. So I think we're trained, we're dumbed down, we're numbed down to eat bland, boring food in the grocery store. And once you start eating off the heirloom palette, you will never go back to the grocery store.
Wow.
It's just so flavorful.
Wow.
And then it really makes me wonder, like, where has all the seed variety, why has it been lost? Because you can't make a lot of money off of it, because it doesn't store well, doesn't travel well. You can't really patent nature or trademark nature, but that has not stopped some people from trying to do that.
Right.
So I think that's part of my passion, is to educate people. That's why I really encourage people to watch that documentary. And then, to educate people and encourage them to try to grow their own gardens and then seek out variety. And heirlooms have survived, like, tests and trials of nature. They are very hardy. They're pest resistant. They're drought resistant, and you have really good crops if you grow heirloom varieties.
Wow.
So yeah, all my gardens are like black, blue, purple. You will not find anything grown on our property that, especially in the vegetable garden, that you can easily find at a store.
And the black, blue, purple is, like, something because you love the aesthetics of it initially.
So once again, don't live a boring life. So I just really, really love, you don't find black in nature. In fact, it's really, really not technically black. If you look close, it's like dark, dark, dark purple, or dark, dark, dark blue. And then people have saved seeds and the darkest varieties and then passed them down, and they just get darker and darker and darker. But we did played a little role in there in helping create these black plants by selecting the varieties that were the darkest.
Sure.
But yeah, so I have several what I call, like, gothic gardens, and then put, like, skulls and gravestones, and I have a big 250-pound cauldron in one of my gardens. So I kind of play out that whole, like, little witchy gothic aesthetic. But I'm very attracted to the black in nature because you don't find it.
Yeah. And blue is very unusual
rare,
as well.
Very, very,
very
rare,
right?
Very rare to have blue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. And does that, I mean, I think of your gardens then in my head as like just this large landscape palette. Like
Yes.
I mean, it's just like a painting.
Yes.
But it's 3D. And it's all around you, and you're eating it and sharing it, and
but then shared it with nature, right?
Right, exactly.
The bees, like yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, a butterfly landed on one of my flowers, and I'm like, like take a picture of it from a distance, not getting too close. But when the birds and the bees and the pollinators interact with my garden or our artwork, to me, that's who I'm making it for. Yes, it is visually appealing to me, and it makes me feel so amazing to just go outside and look at what I mean, I didn't create it. I curated it. I selected the seeds and I planted it there, but I didn't create it. But to watch nature and wildlife interact with my palette is so amazing to me. Like I went outside yesterday and I noticed a couple of the tulip heads were popped off. So I'm like, oh, those deer ate them again. And like at first you're a little like, oh, bummed out. But I'm like, well, that's really, we are nature.
Right.
We're taking things from wildlife and nature, and we're living on their land. So if they want to come eat my garden, go ahead. In fact, my husband and I were like, I think we're going to plant a decoy garden for the animals over there that they can have. That's for them. Maybe to keep them away from our stuff. But you can't get mad when they come and eat your stuff.
Right.
Because isn't the goal, at least for me, is to live in harmony with nature? And if you want to nibble on my tulips, go ahead. It's okay. It's okay.
I love that. I love that. The whole decoy garden and everything.
What other artwork can nature also appreciate too, right? You're not going to eat my painting.
Right.
But go ahead and eat my garden. It's okay.
Wow. I mean, it's such a full, not only is your garden full, but you're doing paintings now. And do you... You know, when you came in, you were like, I'm type A personality. Very. Like, I want to feel like I have like X, Y, and Z kind of down and stuff. So do you organize these things in a way that, or do you just kind of like roll into your day in a way that you feel? Like, how do you operate?
I'm trying to be more like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm
not really like that. I am definitely a list maker, a planner. Like I have things planned out in 2022, and so when things come up in the moment, like yesterday, someone came over to get some lettuce because, like I said, we're giving away lettuce, and she like messaged me, "Are you home right now? Is now a good time?" I'm like, "Oh my god, she's here! She didn't tell me ahead of time that she was coming." And I was like, "Breathe, it's okay. Hi, are you here for lettuce?" You know,
right?
So I'm trying to be more in the moment. Yeah, it's a struggle for me, but I'm definitely trying to be more in the moment, go with the flow. Yeah. When things come up, like, oh, it's okay. If I'm trying to subscribe to that philosophy that everything happens for a reason and to go with the ebb and flow, I have to get better at that. Yeah. So I'm trying to be more, but I did plan my gardens out. Like, I planned out the seeds that I'm going to grow and where I'm going to put them and all that. So I'm like, I think it's a good balance of trying to be more in the flow and be a little organized and trying to be in the middle.
Oh, it's a challenge.
Trying to like braid them together.
That's great. Braid them. Oh yeah, I love that. I love that.
Incorporate them both.
And I don't want to. I feel like we could talk for like 5 hours. Yeah. Like.
We go
just get more coffee, right? Yeah. But is there, when you were thinking about this, is there anything that you want to like share? Anything else that you want to share about like your process or something that people don't know about that you're inspired by, or things that you're drawn from that we haven't covered? Or
just do it. So for my process, for my like background in history, once again, no formal art training, no classes. Looked at everyone around me who is an artist, which is another label, right? Yeah. Just like depression and ADD, artist is just a label. Yeah. I'm trying to like really deconstruct labels because one person may say you're depressed and another one may say, no, you're not. One may say you're an artist and another one would say, yeah, right. So label is just a label and it's just a perception. So just do it. Just try not to think about, should I do this or not? Like, can I do this or not? You can, right? Anyone can do anything. Just do it. Just start. I almost, wish I would have started painting and all that a while ago, or just pursuing creative endeavors a while ago instead of like pigeonholing myself as an intellectual because I didn't have any training.
Or opening that label up for yourself, because all of what you were doing, your whole life is like this sequence of creative choices.
I recently,
whether it's a physical, like this is a painting, or like taking a class and developing this, like your whole life is that creative.
So I think everyone's an artist then, in a way, if we're going to look at it that way. I know I put within the past year, I used the hashtag on Instagram when I put a painting up, like artist on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, I'm using the artist. I feel like an imposter. Like I'm going to delete that hashtag. But I think we're, deconstructing that label of an artist. So a big part of my journey has been the Art Center, John Michael Kohler Art Center here too, and how they champion self-taught, what in the past was considered outsider or folk art.
Right.
People who are self-taught, who learn art in a different way and exploring themselves. So volunteering there initially as the master gardener. And then because I was a headmaster gardener, ended up on the Friends of the Art Council. And then two of the docents there befriended me and were like, you should be a docent. I'm like, no way. I can never be a docent. I don't know anything about art. I don't have any fear of talking in front of people, but I don't know anything about art. And then they're like, you should do it. You should do it. Like cornered me in the parking lot at the Art Center. Like, you should do it. You should do it. I was like, okay. So I took the docent training and then started doing art tours. And then just that whole process for me there, it wasn't about giving the tours or doing the tours. For me, it was about part of my journey and hearing certain things like, okay, you can make amazing art and not be trained. You can do amazing art and not go to art school. To me, that like flipped a switch in my head that anyone can create art.
Yeah.
Anyone can be an artist.
Yes.
Just get started. Just do it. Don't let and I think that's been a big part of my life too, like living my authentic life and not caring what other people say or think about me, as long as I'm happy and I'm a good person and I'm not doing bad things. Just do it. Just get started. Just create or make, and don't worry about what other people think, and don't worry about what the finished product looks like and what other people might think. You're creating for yourself and the journey, the process.
Right.
Just get started. Just do it.
And in whatever form that takes.
Whatever form.
Choice,
For some people, it's like making tea and cooking food is an art form.
Absolutely.
Decorating your house is an art form. Art is everywhere.
Absolutely.
If you're intentionally putting things together and making things and organizing things and taking care for the way that it looks, you're an artist. You can be an artist at anything. So let's dissolve that term artist, because I think we all can leave creatively. I like the term creative better.
Yeah, I agree.
Versus the term artist, because it's so prestigious. I think the term artist.
Right.
Well, we're all creative.
Absolutely.
Unless you're really living like I only eat potatoes and I don't, don't do anything for fun. I don't go outside. Well, that's maybe not creative, but I think a lot of us are very creative.
We could address it in terms of like creative movements, right? Artistic movements.
But I think a lot of people are very creative and just don't think of it that way.
I totally agree.
My sister loves decorating her home and organizing things, and I think that's very creative.
Yes.
But she might not think of herself as an artist, but is it not, in a way, a form of art?
Making aesthetic decisions every day.
Making delicious, yummy food.
Absolutely.
Taking care for how you put it on the plate.
Exactly.
The way that you dress yourself every day, the way you do your hair, the clothes you put on, the accessories you choose to wear, your makeup that you wear. Isn't that not art or creative? Speaking
my language.
So I argue with anyone to tell me one creative thing who's not doing anything, at least one thing creative every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So just do it.
And I think sometimes we get tripped up because we want to be perfect. And you're tying back into appreciating the imperfect, appreciating the nature. When you can appreciate, when you were talking about, this tomato might have a bump on it or something, and that it was defending itself, or something happened, but it's still fine and it's okay, and that's makes it what it is. And tying it further back to our conversation about
us
ourselves and like our right, like what you talked about.
Is that an imperfection if the tomato has a little bump on it because it was really windy out and it was defending itself from being swayed around? Oh, it has a little bump. It defended itself. Right. That's I don't even want to call them imperfections. That's our abilities, our traits, our skills, our personality characteristics that we developed as a result of the situations that we've been in. That's beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
And in a certain, through certain lenses, it may be pathological, but through others, it's not. So we are literally a accumulation of every single thing we've been through in our life.
Yes.
So whether it's a tomato or a person, right?
Yes.
What we look like, what we developed, how we are, how we feel, how we think, how we be is all because of the scenarios that we've been in and that we've survived.
Right.
We've survived these scenarios.
Yeah.
Like nature, like the tomato.
Exactly.
You're never going to look at a tomato the same ever again, right?
No, I mean, I'll totally appreciate it differently. And that's, I think that's part of this, that's part of that flow and cycle of, also like tuning in, looking, being present with something and seeing what it does for you, what that reflection is, and then how to incorporate it or not incorporate it, like those choices that you make.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. And I'm kind of shocked that we have like such a similar viewpoint. But yeah, like coffee in the future for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm so glad that you could share all that you bring to this world with us, with your creative life. It's just, and I feel very honored that you shared that about me. I feel really moved by that. So
you just think of, right, how from a friend told us who's in the studio that there was a studio space open, and then we met there and liked it and took it. I mean, just think of all the choices that you make, not necessarily divine intervention, but all the choices from A to B that make you end up at C, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that journey. That
because of that, we met and here we are today.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you so much, Christina. So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And Christina, how can we learn more or find out more about your work process or contact you?
Ooh, for my business me, you can check out my website, mindsoulandself.com, MindSoulandSelf.com. Oh, no, wait a second. I was giving you my email. No. MindSoulandSelf.com is my website. MindSoulandSelf@yahoo.com is my email. And then if you want to check me out on Instagram, where I post all my black plants and all my purple plants and all that, X_Tina_MindSoulSelf. And that's on Instagram.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Erica Hunsinger. You've been listening to In the Act with Christina Wilke Burbach at Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin on Mead Community Radio.
In the Act is produced in the studios at Mead Public Library in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. More information on the web at meadpl.org.